Excusing Councilmember John Adams, he's out of town. And then following Abby's opening, she will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, so at our house, we've been prepping. The schools do a Martin Luther King Jr. speech contest, and my daughters have been doing that, and it's very cute. But now I have the speeches, and they've been really good. They've been good for teaching our kids, and I just wanted to share one of them, not the whole thing. It says, "We must not seek to defeat or humiliate the enemy, but to win his friendship and understanding. At times we are able to humiliate our worst enemy. Inevitably, his weak moments come, and we are able to thrust in his side the spear of defeat. But this we must not do. Every word and deed must contribute to an understanding with the enemy and release the vast reservoirs of goodwill which have been blocked by impenetrable walls of hate. Let us move now from the practical how to the theoretical why. Why should we love our enemies? The first reason is fairly obvious. Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." I just really like, I don't know, I just like that it's a positive message, especially when things seem bleak. So with that, why don't we go ahead and do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Hunt. We appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. We reserve the first little bit to public comment, and we don't have anyone signed up to speak. And so we will move on to our agenda item number 3, presentations and awards. I'll turn the time over to Rob Sant, who will talk about the West Davis corridor. Rob, will you introduce yourself? Thanks.
Of course, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So I'm Rob Sant. I'm representing Lewis, Young, Robertson, and Birmingham, where I was vice president at the time when we conducted this study, and Kaysville resident, live right over by the pond. So I'm happy to be home for this presentation. My favorite stop of the tour I'm giving, presenting to all the cities. So a little background on this study. So from 2019 to 2021, I was the Davis County Economic Development Director. And the first thing I did on the job is I stopped at all the 15 cities and met with the staff and discussed what their economic goals were and strategies. And as I met with West Point, Syracuse, Layton, Kaysville, and Farmington, they all said, hey, we have this new West Davis corridor coming in. We have vacant land. For some cities, a lot more vacant land than other cities. In where the interchanges will be, we would love to see kind of what the highest and best use would be for the land around the future interchange. And as I kind of thought to myself, I said, well, why don't we, instead of doing an individual report for each city, let's kind of do a comprehensive approach. And so we got together the 5 cities in the county, and we applied for a TLC grant at Wasatch Front Regional Council, and we're able to get a $160,000 grant to do this study, and each city only had to pay $1,500. So it was really, I think, a big return on investment for what the cities had to give in. So with that, this is a 30-page presentation. We're going to fly through it and just kind of get to the really important part where we talk about what each node could have. So with that, we go to the next slide. So this is just a quick flyover overview of the 7 interchanges that will be part of the West Davis corridor. So the first interchange will be Farmington. Kaysville actually has 2. You have the Kaysville-Farmington one right by the sewer district plant, and then one just by 2nd North. And then there's one in Layton, and then Syracuse has 2 by themselves, and then West Point, Syracuse share one. So the first thing we kind of, go to the next slide, the first thing we kind of did is look at kind of the demographics of the region and of each city. And we wanted to do this because as a developer or a business owner or a company looks to relocate, they kind of look at population, education, median incomes, and some of those things to decide what's a good fit for our business. So we'll just go through these real quick. So Kaysville City's population as of the 2020 census was 32,945 people. The median adjusted gross income, Kaysville's a lot higher than the Davis County and Utah. And then this next one kind of shows a snapshot of all the cities in Utah and where Kaysville is. And you'll see you're really near the top of all the cities in Utah. And then when we do median adjusted gross income, that's taking out some of the tax deductions that we'll have. So the household income of Kaysville is actually higher than that $91,000 number. And then the other thing that you really look at is age distribution. This is important as a company looks at what's our workforce. Is it aging out? Do we have people coming in? And Kaysville, your average median age in 2020 was 27 and a half, so a very young population, younger than both the county and the state of Utah. And then educational attainment, same thing. I would say Kaysville and Farmington, you guys are right there with the highest educated population in the county. So 63% of the population in Kaysville has an associate's degree or higher. So a very highly educated populace. And then we looked at taxable sales. The reason why I wanted to look at taxable sales was to understand, hey, there might be some retail along the corridor interchanges, and so what is each city leaking, right? So you know what you should focus on. So this first one just kind of gives you a snapshot of how many taxable sales you had in 2020. So $477 million, and then of that, you get a portion of that right in your sales tax revenues. And this next one is kind of a snapshot of where those sales take place. So the darker the red and the bigger the red is where you have more of those gross taxable sales. So no surprise here, right along Main Street, 200 North, kind of in your industrial park there, is where a lot of those sales are at. Something that's interesting is you'll see some of those circles that are in residential areas. And what that is it can be two things. It could be online sales. So either you have someone that's an Amazon addict living in that home, or the other one is maybe they sell something out of their home. So an example of this is in Fruit Heights. One of their biggest circles was in a residential area, and they were like, well, what's that all about? And what they found out is there was a resident who was one of the highest grossing Spanx salespeople in the Western region. So he was a high sales tax generator for the city.
Of what?
A Spanx. Oh, that's interesting.
Like Spanx, like, yeah, what you wear.
Underclothes.
Clothes, yeah. Form fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then this is sales tax leakage, what we talked about. So if you're at 100% or higher, that means based off of your population, you're capturing all of those sales. If you're under 100%, that means that your residents are leaving your city to shop outside of the city. So overall, retail is kind of a big one you want to look at. That's where you have your food sales and things like that. So as a city, you're capturing 52% currently of retail. And then overall, you're at 50%. So definitely room to grow as you're looking at kind of retail development in the city. And then real quick, go back. So then there's that buying power one. That's just based off of your future population change. So just based off of what's going to come between now and 2040, you have an opportunity to capture an additional $138 million of gross taxable sales.
Wow.
And then something I forgot to mention as well is this study is just looked at through a market lens, right? So we looked at what could the market support in each of these nodes, not necessarily what does the general plan say, what do you as a council want when it comes to residential density. None of that was factored into this study, just based off of the market and the need, what could happen in each of these nodes. So our goal is for you to take this study and just use it as you're making future decisions with land use and things like that. But it's not to say, this is what we're showing, do it, right? That's up to you as a council. So what we did is we kind of just first looked, go to the next slide, at what kind of our competitive areas were. So the first one is the competition for office sites. There's not a lot of office in Davis County. That's something we really noticed when I was over the economic development, is if there was a business or company looking to locate in Davis County, if they needed more than 15,000 square feet, they had to go outside of the county. So there really is a need for additional office space. The future development in North Farmington Station, they're going to have over 3 million square feet of office, so that will probably eat up a lot of that need, but there is definitely a need for office in the county. The next one is industrial. So for the most part, every city has their own industrial park. Kaysville, you guys have, yours just by Barnes Park. But still, as you look towards kind of the West Point, Syracuse, West Layton area, there is definitely room for more industrial. And also the dark circles are 1 mile buffer, and the light The lighter ones are 2 mile buffer. The next one is the retail or the commercial. So if it's a blue, it means it's a regional one, like a Station Park, a Walmart, a Costco. Entertainment is kind of the movie reel, and then your yellow is neighborhood, and then green is accommodation. So that's something we kind of noticed is in Syracuse, on their node, there's 1 million people that go to Antelope Island every year, and they just take a bus out and then get on a bus and leave. And so we identified a hotel as a great use for their node right there. Is this kind of an example of why we do this?
Right.
So kind of some of the trends. So the industrial market is very strong all along the Wasatch Front. I would say of all the different industrial, office, retail, and residential, the industrial one was least affected by COVID. You just kind of see throughout the county as flex space development pops up, kind of how you have just south of Boondocks, they get booked up right away, right? The office one is kind of still in flux with COVID, but we were in a meeting the other day with national site selectors and office users, and they said that they're really projecting within the next year or two that people are going to start heading back to the office. So that's good for kind of those vacant office spaces we have right now in the county. The retail market is still strong and stabilizing. Vacancy rates are dropping. And what you're seeing is not that retail's going away, but it's kind of going through a process where people aren't really going to malls to shop anymore, but they're going for an experience. So you're kind of seeing more of experience-driven retail is doing well. And then last for the residential, we're all aware of where we are in Utah with residential. In 2021, more than half of Utah's households couldn't afford a median-priced home, and the Wasatch Front were experiencing the lowest levels of available housing stock. So we're showing that the more housing we can do, the better. And then what we kind of want to do, and I won't spend a lot of time on this because this hurts my brain and I'm the one that did it, is this is kind of how we forecasted what we could see in each node. So we did a location quotient analysis where we looked at what industries were growing, what ones were emerging, to kind of say what could come here. So the next slide kind of shows that we identified these sectors or subsectors are emerging and growing, and then we took that information and forecasted what would the short-term job creation be for each of those sectors or subsectors. So on that next slide, this kind of shows what the office market demand analysis is. So that last table kind of says between now and 2040, there's going to be an additional 18,488 office jobs, which translates to about 4.6 million needed square feet of office space, or 424 acres. Same thing for industrial, 18,600 jobs, about 37 million square feet of space needed, and 2,400 acres needed. And then retail, 21,000 jobs, 10.8 million square feet needed. And then we also looked at the residential analysis. So this one we looked at compared to Weber County and compared to Salt Lake County, what is there a high concentration of in the cities for like your 1 unit attached and detached, that's kind of your single family homes, and then 2 unit, 3 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 or more. And what we kind of realized, no surprise to a lot of people, is outside of single family, there's not a high concentration of other available housing options in the county. And then this is the demand analysis. So this shows just future current households, current housing units, and then what will come in the next 20 years. And so we're showing in Kaysville, just based off of population projections, you're going to need about an additional 2,300 residential units.
Interesting.
So now this is the good part of the study is what does that translate to, right? So your nodes are pretty unique in a lot of it's already developed or will be developed, right? So that circle represents kind of the buffer area we first looked at in our analysis. And at the time it was Lyle, he was your community development person. He said, hey, would we be okay to extend it a little more east so we capture some of that vacant land around just south of Hill Farms. So that's what we kind of did there. And so this next one shows what we kind of project happening. So the total developable acreage is 26.7 acres. And we're saying that likely 4 acres could be retail, or about 15,000 square feet. 8.9 acres could be office, or about 65,000 square feet. And then 13 acres could be residential. Again, this is just based off of the market for 82 units. And then those are kind of pictures of what we think. So I think a good location for a Maverick, right by the interchange. And then when we say office, we're saying more of like a dental office or kind of your you know, that type of office, not necessarily like a medical office or something like that. And then this is kind of just a depiction or a diagram of what how that could appear. Not set in stone. You know, so here we're showing a lot of that townhome multifamily development, but that's not saying, okay, this is what we want you to do now, right?
Right.
Just based off of the market. And then the light blue is kind of that office. So that's kind of where you have your Kaysville, that pediatric dentist office right there. We're showing kind of more of that on that side, and then a little more retail across the street. And then this is what that fiscal benefit could be for you. So we're showing, you know, with this one about a 10-year absorption since there's not a lot of space. So about an additional 290 jobs, the potential of 296 more residents. And then for your revenues, property sales and franchise, you're looking at about an average annual revenue of $96,000, $97,000. And then during a 20-year frame, you're looking at about $1.2 million, or about $2 million. And then this is the Kaysville Farmington node. So same thing, not a lot of area of change. You have the sewer district right around there, and then already a lot of existing residential.
Can I ask a quick question real quick?
Yeah.
The area of change, describe, what does that mean exactly versus the area of prominence?
So when we say area of change, that kind of means it's vacant ground, right? So it's something that could be developed. So if it's an area of permanence for us, either it's in an established wetland that will never be developed, or it's already like an existing development's already there.
I see, okay.
So for this one too, if you see that, the black line there, that represents the Farmington boundary compared to the Kaysville boundary. So even though we say this is the Kaysville Farmington node, all of the development is on the Kaysville side.
Oh, it's on the Kaysville side.
Yep. So the Farmington's, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So for this one, the area of change, what we call the developable acreage is about 17 acres. Here, less retail, about 2.82, same thing like a gas station, 16,000 square feet, 11,000 square feet of that neighborhood type office, and then 11 acres of residential. But since you're surrounded by a lot of those single family homes, we're saying this probably isn't the best use for more of that multifamily. So even though it could be more residential acreage, it's less units in this one.
Right.
And then here's that diagram. So up towards kind of the north, you have more single family, and then right there along that interchange, there's going to be a big parking lot. That's what that dark gray kind of square is. So we're saying, hey, that might be a good spot to put in some of that multifamily. And then you have that little retail and office use. And then for this one, same thing, kind of that maybe not 5 to 9 year build out, about 80 jobs, about 170 residents, and then less impact on your revenues here, about $66,000 a year for a total of 1.3 million. So with that, any questions?
Let's go back to that last table you just did. So, question I have is, you're saying that potential residents, 168 dwellings or 168 people?
People.
Oh.
So we're just taking the dwellings and times that by what your
Times
current,
it by the 3 point something,
household
yeah,
size
3
is.
point, yeah.
Okay.
So I think if you go back to the next one more, we're showing 47 dwellings.
Okay.
47 dwellings.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. I think your household size is like 2.7 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so 3
It's
point.
a lot of data all at once, I know
3.7.
that. So we have the full study as well. Melinda has a copy of that if you'd like to see that.
Mike,
It's a nice, simple
there's a
119 page
3.7.
read. So it's pretty extensive, but a lot of that demographics, right? Since we had 5 cities, it's kind of, these are West Points, these are Syracuse. So, but in there, it does have a little bit more detail on your sales tax leakage, so it'd be good to kind of see that.
Yeah.
And then there is some more detail on average daily traffic counts and things like that.
It's interesting information. It's very interesting. So really, you're saying that there's more need for retail office than flex space?
I would say with this one, and that's just because of the land,
Okay.
right? So if you looked at the whole report, we show what's in all 7 of the nodes. So in the Layton node, because they have, I think, 400 acres of change, we're showing a regional business park there.
Okay.
Where you have a lot of that flex space. I'm not saying that flex space couldn't go there. I think
Right.
it could. But we're just kind of showing with that 2-acre, kind of the small footprint.
Just a small.
You're maybe more likely to see that neighborhood office.
And there is a need for that?
Yes.
Based
Oh,
on the
yeah.
data? Just,
Yep.
okay, interesting. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did your study take into account the traffic that it would remove from the main off and on ramps?
So
At
we,
I-15, the current
so
off and on ramps?
Fair and Piers, they're kind of traffic engineers. I'm sure they've worked at the city before. They did a lot of that traffic study. And so taking that traffic and then taking kind of some of the other things, that's how we kind of came up and all agreed upon, hey, this is probably what the development could be.
Okay.
But I don't know if we really looked a lot about traffic impacts outside of the nodes.
Okay. I'm curious how much traffic it would relieve from,
Yeah,
the main one.
that's something we could look at. I'm sure they did a lot of those studies when they were planning out kind of what the impact.
Yeah, especially for folks that live down by like boondocks and stuff, it's just really congested.
Yeah, and I would say just because of the availability of land, your West Point, Syracuse, and Layton, this is very impactful for them. Because a lot of them, they have 300 acres of available land, right? And Farmington and Kaysville, it's not
Right.
quite as impactful. But still, it's important that that land that is available, that you do say, hey, what's the highest and best use of this land we have? Because there's not a lot of vacant land in Kaysville, right?
Right,
So it is good to say, hey, we want to save this for what the highest and best use would be for this area.
right.
And hopefully this study can help guide those conversations.
Okay.
With your experience with the county, like how important is it for us to talk to our neighbor cities about what they're doing? Should we really factor that in how we decide to kind of plan for that land, or?
So I think it's important in the sense, right, like if, let's say you guys had 100 acres of land and you're like, man, we would really like a station park. A developer, right, would never put a station park in Kaysville because it's next to Farmington. So it would be good to kind of know what cities have going on and what they're planning for and what they have imminent. Just, I think it does help in that sense, right?
And have you seen other cities do that, where they work together and kind of?
So West Point and Syracuse, they do a pretty good job with, I would say, the note they have, just because I think they envision kind of a regional industrial park that's on both sides of the city, right? So I know, so I help Sandy a lot as well, and we meet, as staff at least, we meet with their economic development staff at least quarterly, right? Just to kind of say, hey, what's everybody doing? What are some tips? What are some tricks, right? And then I know at the county, this is a little different, but we created that Northern Utah Economic Alliance with Davis and Weber County. And we kind of just realized that rising tide lifts all boats, you know, so while you might not get that office development that's going in Farmington, maybe there is some retail development, right? And some supportive stuff, or maybe some residential people that could live in Kaysville. So I think it's helpful.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, of course, thank you so much for taking the time.
Appreciate you being here.
Yep,
Thank you. All right, do we have any declaration of conflicts of interest? Anything to declare? Okay. As we move forward, I just wanted to remind council that we are, we changed this so we can have more discussion, but I'd still like to be formal, so please wait to be recognized, okay, as we move forward. All right. Number 5, consent items. Any discussion on this, or no? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve consent items A and B.
Okay.
No, second?
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Any comments? Okay, Councilmember Oaks.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Let's move on to action items. Action 6A, an ordinance amending section 15-3-6 of the Kaysville City Code regarding the number of dogs and cats allowed within a residence. I'll turn the time over to our city manager, Shane.
Mayor, thank you. As discussed at our last meeting, this is an ordinance that would change the number of dogs, and it does address cats as well, which our previous ordinance did not do. This comes as a recommendation from the Animal Control Department of Davis County, who does the enforcement and the vast majority of animal control in our area. And they're looking for all cities to adopt a very similar ordinance so they can kind of have some consistency as they move throughout the county. And this is their recommendation. And we discussed this at the last meeting, and we're open to discussing it tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this?
I have a question.
Councilmember?
Just curious, what about birds and bunnies? I'm a lover of bunnies.
Bunny lover.
I don't know if this does address that at all. Birds for sure not. We have a large animal ordinance as well, but I don't know if we get into bunnies regulation. Do you like bunnies?
I do, but I haven't.
Outdoors or indoors, or is it just?
I'm just curious
Trapping.
with neighbors. But I also have another question that's
Okay.
a little more serious. For folks who have service animals with disabilities and whatnot, how does this factor in if there's multiple folks that live within a housing unit? I know that some property managers deal with that request. And it probably doesn't happen very often, but.
It's right there.
So as I read the code, it would exempt all service animals. So.
Okay, oh, that
if-
says right here.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you
I didn't
had,
see that.
if you had two blind people that both needed a seeing eye dog, neither of those seeing eye dogs would count towards the allowed number of.
I see, okay, okay. I've been asked that from different property owners and management, so.
Mayor, may?
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Oaks.
So was this the plant to, you make the statement about our decorum and then have the first item be a bunny question? So, sorry.
Are you a plant neighbor?
I do think that having, we might need more office space for psychiatric units after the additional pets, especially if you're talking 4 cats.
Are you questioning my love
No,
for bunnies?
nothing at all. Sorry.
Thank you. Great discussion on that. All right. Would someone like to make a motion? Councilmember Oaks.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending section 15-3-6 of the Kaysville City Code regarding the number of dogs and cats allowed within a residence.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments? No? All right. Let's go to a vote. Councilmember Blackham.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. Thank you. All right, action item B, a resolution amending the Kaysville City Rules of Procedure and Order for City Council. I'll turn the time over to Nick, our parliamentarian.
Thanks, Mayor. Members of the City Council, we talked about this as a work item last time. This would just allow the council to begin discussing the item prior to the motion. This came at the request of City Council. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are.
Any questions? Nope, okay.
If we approve this, oh,
yes,
sorry,
go
Mayor.
ahead.
Does it go into effect immediately, or is it like on the next
Yeah,
meeting?
I think the ordinance is written, or the resolution is written such that it becomes effective immediately.
All right, sounds good. Would someone like to make a motion?
We've been doing it already.
Right, we're already doing it.
I will make a motion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will make a motion that we pass action item 6, Part B, a resolution amending the Kaysville City Rules and Procedure and Order for City Council.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Comments? No, seeing none, we'll go for a vote. Councilmember Hunt.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Motion passes. All right, action item C, acceptance of award of contract to Diamond Tree Experts for energized line clearance services. Turn the time over to our power director, Brian.
Thank you for having me here tonight. So basically, we're just looking for approval to move forward with Diamond Tree Experts to now be the company in which we do the tree trimming that we've been doing in the city to help us with the trees for an extended period of time. This is something that we have already presented to the Power Commission, and they approved it as well. As you can see, the breakdown of in the staff report, diamond tree experts came in exceptionally lower than the other 2 bids that we received as well. I called 4 different references, including Bountiful City, who currently uses diamond tree experts. They converted over from Asplund tree trimming as well last year, started using diamond tree experts. And they said that they were extremely satisfied with the quality of work that they were doing, that they were very proficient, very effective, and did a wonderful job, very good use of their time. And they felt that they will continue to award diamond tree experts their contract, continuing contract to do their trees. So with that shining recommendation from their references, and from also I called a company with the state of Utah that uses them, and then obviously the price is significantly lower. We are waiting on them to get some of the proper equipment to be able to, that they're waiting for us to say that we will move forward with the contract. The intent is that we'll use them for 1 year, reassess the quality of work, make sure that they are doing what we need in a proficient manner, and they're doing a good job. And in the contract, at the end of that term, we'll then reevaluate, and hopefully everything will be good. We'll be able to continue and renew with them. One of my worries and fears was that they would, at the end of that year, jack up their rates like crazy, seeing the way things are. So within that contract, there is a line item that in the event that we do renew our contract at the end of 1 year, they can't move their rates up more than 4% of their current rate. So they can 4%, yeah. So they can raise their rates, but it won't be anything astronomical, and it'll be fairly. I feel like it'll be something that's fairly reasonable. So, any questions?
Brian, I have a question. So is this something that was bid? Did this go out to bid? Will you explain how that process worked?
It went out on BidSync. It was on BidSync for just shy of 6 weeks.
Okay.
We got 3 bids back from Wright, Asplund, and Diamond.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure people know that that's the process that we use here. Okay.
Yeah.
I got one question.
Yes, Councilmember Blackham.
This is already in the budget, no additional cost.
Correct, yes. This is already budgeted for. This is something that I'm not asking for any additional money or anything of that nature, so.
You're just asking to change a contract now?
Yep.
And then when we do the budget process in May, March, April, May, and approve in June, then it'll be an additional line item, and if it changes the 4%, will we know at that time, or will they want to change next year, a year from now?
It'd be 1 year from now that contract would be, but I am going to put that
it in.
line item
Sure.
in the budget
Okay.
with that additional
All right.
4% to cover that for next year's line
Okay.
item.
All right, don't let them hear that, but.
Yeah.
Councilmember Oaks.
No, so my question is, and I don't even know if it's, if we're authorized, are we authorized to do multi-year contracts? Like, so we can maybe get a better price long-term?
Yeah, and that's something that I want to definitely entertain once we see how things go
See how
for
they
this
do.
year.
Okay.
On the renewal, I definitely will entertain a longer contract with them, and hopefully be able to use.
Then
that
you're
as
able to
a
lock in the rates, and, there's obviously a standard, well, there's no standard inflation anymore, but yeah, there's what they can. Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Councilmember Jackson.
I have a question. So with you reaching out to different folks like Bountiful City and other people, and switching or looking for a different company, what potential benefits do you think that we're in store for as a city with this new company coming in? Like, what are you excited about? What kind of piqued your interest, other than the lowest bid and whatnot?
Yeah, so one of the issues that we were running into is when Asplund came to me and said our contract's running up, the first red flag was they said that they were going to increase their rates. They have a three-man crew. A compiled increase was going to come between the three men was going to come to about $42 an hour. So that was the first thing. The second reason that we put it back out was because we felt like Asplin was becoming more and more complacent with their place here in Kaysville, and that they knew they were going to make so much every day, and they weren't pushing really hard. And we talked to their management about that, and their management was looking to address it. But that was something that we said, well, if we can find a company that we have good references from that can do better and will be better, and come in here with more of a drive to show us what they can do, then we want to put it out and see what's available. So,
Okay.
and as I talked to the references, 3 of the references that I called also used Asplin, who we were utilizing previously, and all 3 of them said that they had left due to productivity.
Interesting.
And so that was a driving factor. So I'm hoping we get crews that will be able to be a lot more productive. Also, Asplin is held to a lot more union standard safety procedures. So when they get to a job site, they have to, by their company procedures, go through about a 45-minute process of safety protocol. And then if they leave the job site and they come back, they have to do it again.
And that's every job site,
And
no
that's
matter
correct,
if
yes.
there's power
Every
lines
single day.
nearby or anything. Wow.
Yeah, every single day, every single job. And Diamond doesn't have those same policies. And they still meet all the same safety requirements, but they don't have to go through those same procedures. So we're hoping to get more work time out of them as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Brian, thank you. You've done a great job vetting this out, it sounds like,
Yeah,
so we
thanks,
really
Brian.
appreciate.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, are we looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
accept the acceptance of the award of the contract to Diamond Tree Experts for energized line clearance services.
Thank you.
No, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Comments? No? All right, Councilmember
I have a
Jackson.
comment.
Oh, yes.
I would love for this, I'm optimistic about this new company, and when it comes to trees, they're important to our community and the health of our community. And so I would love this company to not just hack trees up, but
With the
to,
bunnies.
keep the health of the tree in mind, and also power lines and things like that. So optimistic about this new direction we're going.
Thank you. Great. All right, ready to vote? Councilmember Jackson.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Let's go to action item 6D, purchase of a fire engine apparatus. Chief Erickson.
Who's asking Brian to brief it?
Mayor, council members, city leaders, thank you for your time this evening. Yeah, it's that time again, and we've been in a little uncharted waters, if you will. We did a build in 2018, and we got a truck in 8 months. Got an ambulance at the same time. We ordered an ambulance June of 21, and we're getting an estimated delivery date this December.
Wow.
So wait times are huge. Is that going to change? I don't know. I really don't. I wish I had a crystal ball on it. What we do, unfortunately, is expensive. That's the nature of our business, and we're a high-paid insurance policy. Yes, this is out of budget. Councilmember Blackham, you know that. It's a little out of the ordinary. So I was approached. I talked to Siddons and Company that do Pierce's. All of our fleet is Pierce, by the way. We get a certain cab, and as Councilmember Blackham pointed out, more of a sole source, so it was misspoke on the staff package. It's not a state contract, but more of a sole source. But they went to 34 and 35-month delivery times now. So they came to me about a month ago. We put together a team to do a build. We did it fairly quick because we already have the type that we want. So it was kind of a cut and paste thing. Back then, we paid $837,000 and some change for that particular vehicle. Now it's $1,063,000 and some change. Yeah. So their prices have gone up about 30% since 18. They will go up another 6.5% November 1st, which will tack on another $71,500, and they will go up another 5% in February. So I don't know what else to say about that, other than they're working on some of their production stuff. So they're adding to their Appleton plant, they're adding 90,000 square feet to their 1 million square feet facility. They're hiring 200 more employees. They are a parent company with Oshkosh. Oshkosh is reinvesting $90 million into Pierce. So these are all good things, but at the end of the day, we put all this together, and as I discussed with Councilmember Blackham earlier, you know, it doesn't matter. They're waiting for all these pieces, so they're just waiting for probably 2.5 years and then build it the last 6 months is the reality of it. So, yeah, it's everything. You know, I got a list here to talk about some things, but everything has gone up. You know, our boots have gone up from $380 to $525. Our PPE takes 9 months instead of 3 months now. Radios used to be 3 weeks. That was Motorola state contract. Now it's 3 months to get a radio. I ordered battery chargers for our radios in April. Still waiting for battery chargers. So it's the times we're in, and I really feel that city leaders and council and department heads need to just look ahead and adjust with the times. So, is there any questions?
Councilmember Jackson.
Those numbers, you said boots 300 to 500 and a bunch of increases. Is that current data with inflation?
That is current data right now.
Okay, right now. And when did you really see that shift? In the last 6 months or?
I'd say the year.
Year?
Yeah,
Okay.
last year. We ordered, just on the PPE side, Councilmember Jackson, we ordered PPE for our new folks in November last year, and we just got it in July.
Okay.
So I mean, it's
Councilmember Oaks, thank you.
So, Chief, just a couple questions. So when did we expect, so previous lead time was about 15 months or so?
less than a year.
Okay, let's
So
see.
we were going to do a build, answer to your question, I think, we were going to do a build in about 2 years.
Okay, and because you were informed, because my question is, hey, we've had to have known about this, but I guess maybe not, because the lead time just jumped from,
About a month ago.
so they just jumped from less than a year to 3 years.
They actually, from talking to me a month ago, they went from 30 months to 34 to 35.
Okay, so maybe plan on 40. Okay. All right, no, that answers the question, because I was concerned. I almost felt like, wait a second, felt almost like we're being pushed into a corner,
Absolutely.
because this is the only council meeting we have to discuss it, and what are the options.
Totally understand.
But, okay, that's understandable. And the other is probably not for you, and it's probably for Dean, is how do we pay for it? And, how much up front? What kind of term,
I can, Councilmember Blackman, maybe you can help out a little bit more, but I'll tell you, my conversation with Dean is he said we can pay for it now. Our statements are looking good, but you probably have more information.
I do have a little more information, but, I was shocked. I went to the chief, it wasn't in our, I'm one of these people who firmly believe in the process.
Yeah.
And so I thought, how could, we just went through the budget process last June and decided not to do a tax increase because the general fund area was $1 million short, and we took money from our reserves to make that up. And I thought, well, fire trucks are general fund items. That would put us $2 million. But first of all, that's not true, because city finances are very complicated, and there are different sources and different monies for things. and I would like to get into a discussion about this a little bit, but the bottom line is we looked really good on some of our sales tax revenues, and we would have had a bond or a payment on a fire truck in 2 years from now that would have been paid off, and that would have put us on schedule to buy another fire truck, which would have been the 2 years that you're talking about. The problem is the 23-year-old truck's going to be 25 years old or 21 or 23, 24 years old. And so I'm like, well, we can't just keep raising taxes every time. And that's why I wanted to talk to Dean every time something comes up. But like I said, city finances are very difficult, very complex, and our sales tax revenues are looking very good, higher than we actually even anticipated. And we have other things that we have reserves that we can make these payments. And, you know, and I don't know if we're planning on, you'll have to ask this, are we planning to pay the whole thing up front now? Is that's what's getting us the discount? Or were we going to do it in 3 installments?
I'm not sure about the installments. Do you know about the installments? But I understood it was upfront.
Because my understanding was they needed the full amount up front.
They need the full amount up front, or you don't get the 56. That's what I'm talking to Dean about.
Yeah.
Can our $1 million sit in the bank and over 3 years make more than $56,000?
And the 56,000, not only that, it's also the 71,000. If you don't commit to it and give the money, you also get the $71,000 increase.
In addition.
In addition to, so it's roughly around $100,000 when you look at it. I mean, little more, little less. I think he's going to make some changes, but on the truck. But this is where I would love to have a little bit of a discussion right now, because this is a one-time purchase. I think there are times when we should be using one-time monies for one-time purchases. Now, Brian may want to plug his ears, but when you have a pretty solvent power company where there are reserves there, and I think Kaysville has done a very poor job showing the reserves that we have in the power company and what it has been used for and what it had been used for in the past. And I will use an example of Bountiful City, who has been very proactive and very good about talking to their people and teaching about the reserves and the monies that they make out of the power company in Bountiful, and they don't hide it at all, and they put $3 million or so every year into their general fund for these types of things. And, you know, if it was me and I was making a motion to pay, because I think the chief has done everything he's needed to do to show the justification for the truck. We need to get it because we don't want to come back in 3 years from now and then have another 3-year build from there and have a 27-year-old fire engine out there that we're using. If I was to make a motion, my motion would be that we use one-time monies, which would mean we would use some money from the power reserves and some money from our sales tax reserves. Combined together, whatever percentage you use, that's what pays for this fire truck. And I want to tell you why I believe that, because sales tax usually means everybody. Everybody buys stuff. Everybody goes to the grocery store. And everybody pays for power. That means schools, everybody, churches, everybody pays for power. The mills pay for power, and everybody uses that fire truck. It's not just for a certain few. It's for everybody, and everybody should contribute in paying for it because it serves everybody. I understand. I know that the power company will have some expenses coming up in the future. I know there's some expensive transformers that need to be bought and things like that. But I think we should be using those monies for this type of situation. And I'm love to hear some more discussion on this. Like I said, if I was making a motion, my motion would be to purchase this fire truck with excess power company funds and sales tax funds. But
Okay.
Mayor, can I just clarify
Absolutely,
one thing?
Shane.
I just want to make sure I think there's 2 decision things tonight. One is to commit to buying this vehicle, one, yes or no, and do we pay for it now or pay for it later, and if so, how? So appreciate that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, Councilmember Oaks, did you have?
No, I.
okay. You agree it's two separate
I
ones?
agree with Shane that it's really two decisions in a sense, yeah.
Okay, I have a question for Nick then. So the decision, we don't have both action items on here. So would the decision in terms of how to pay for it come at the next meeting, or would that be handled during this one?
I think you could handle both tonight,
Okay.
because I think anybody in the public that looked at this and said purchase of fire, they would know that.
It was gonna be paid
the
for
idea
somehow?
was, yeah, one and the same, well,
Oh.
part and parcel with
Okay.
the city purchase.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah, I have a few questions. So you mentioned that they approached you to just let you know the time frame and the cost increases.
Because they knew we were gonna do another build in a year or two.
Okay, a year or two from now?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're planning, okay, 23 and a half. Do you have a particular vehicle that you need to replace that this
Yeah,
build?
it kind of goes, Councilmember Jackson, it really goes in line with, Station 62 discussion. Because that's where it'll come into play.
Yeah.
That's, and the timing and everything that's happening, maybe it's good
Yeah.
timing, that it's a 34 to 35-month build.
Mhm.
Sorry, but we're not buying this because 62 is going to be online, right?
No, we're buying it to replace a reserve.
That, I mean, it's
Yeah,
the
we'll
normal
retire.
course of
We'll
business.
retire.
The 5-year window is
Correct.
very,
Okay.
Correct.
just want
So-
to make sure you knew that.
Can you explain, what does that look like retiring that vehicle? Do we sell it? How much? How long do those vehicles typically last? I know that sounds a long time, 23 years, but
It's really on the
could you
hard-
explain that?
It's just the miles on them, and not necessarily a lot of miles. It's the hard miles. It's the 60 miles an hour to a call and then idle for 4 hours. It's that hard type weather that we get here, summers that we get here. It's all those combined. I compare it almost to a patrol car. You can have 100,000 miles on a patrol car, but it really has probably 400 because it's been beat up.
Do you have any data on like maintenance increase in costs on maintenance or things like that?
What do you mean?
With the truck that's aging?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We
Okay.
put I started tracking how much we put in vehicles, hence one of our line items, 1057-250, has went from $40,000 to, it's at $148 right now.
Okay.
We've been averaging about $60,000 a year in maintenance on our vehicles. And we send them in routinely. They get their safety inspections in July, and then right from our safety inspections, they go to the Pierce down in Midvale to get fixed.
Okay,
And go through their routine, regular maintenance.
I see, okay. And I just have a
Okay.
statement, but I could wait
Oh,
until.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about voting tonight. I would just like more discussion in relation to the west side fire station that we're planning, and just more information about the fleet in general, what you're dealing with. And in terms of inflation right now in the economy, yeah, prices are high, but I don't know if we should really jump the gun really quickly. I just want a little more time to just look at information and kind of talk it out.
Tell us the timeline as far as the price adjustment. Is it November 1st?
November 1st, it'll go
So-
up to $71,000.
Okay, so it will absolutely increase to 71,000 November 1st. Okay, and that's the only problem with this is because we don't have another council meeting between now and before that.
Trust me, I would have came sooner if I had.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sorry, just to clarify, I mean, I think as staff and I think for chief, his role is to continue to make sure our equipment is up to a certain
Yeah.
standard. And so if we want to have a conversation tonight about how we get to that standard, I think that's a different conversation than what we were planning on having tonight, which is we need to make a decision about purchasing this or not in 3 years out, which is obviously very unfortunate. But how chief plans for apparatus or anything you do, boots, whatever, I think that's a conversation we certainly can have. But again, with the 8 days we have to make this decision about this.
I do have a question though. So as far as paying for it, if we pay up front, when is that money due? November 1st? Or,
It's due as soon as we sign the proposal.
okay, so the proposal has to be dated prior to November 1st, basically? Okay. And then it will be, so if we paid upfront, then we'd receive the $50,000 discount or something. And if we, okay, and then if we pay as, when it's delivered, we'd have an increase of about 56,000, right?
Say that again?
Well, if we pay upon delivery, we pay then, when
Yeah,
it
you
gets
just
here,
add-
then we just
you
add that,
add the
add that
56 back to
discount.
that.
Okay, right, all right. Okay, because go ahead, Councilmember Jackson.
Well, just to that point, you know, November, is it November 1st, the price will go up?
I believe so.
I mean, that kind of seems like an arbitrary date for the price just to shoot up. I mean, do we have the ability as a council to say, hey, look, we need a little more time and have the company work with us to not increase that price till we have another council meeting, or? Because it seems like they're just kind of coming and we are in a corner and they're kind of, I don't,
I totally understand what you're saying. Do you guys have something you'd like to add? You're having a.
Well, we're just trying to justify, we're trying to say, I mean, right now, we know we're gonna get $120,000 savings. We know, well, what's 50, and I hate to do math here.
71 and 50, 122.
122,000, okay. Can I guarantee that it would be 122,000 less in 3 years? That I can't. That I'm not sure about. That I
The prices
wouldn't know. And I don't know that it might drop 50,
Yeah,
but I don't think it would drop 122. That's
Well,
what
and
I
it
don't
might go
think.
up another 120.
I will say this, in a lot of years of doing this, I've never seen fire trucks go down.
I haven't either.
Yeah.
Yes, I've never seen it go down.
Okay.
I mean, it is unprecedented. Cars are higher than they, you know, and we've seen used cars, but it's used cars. New cars have not done what used cars have done, but I'm just having a hard time saying in 3 years from now, it's gonna be the 120,000 less that we're getting now. That's why I say, it might be 50, 30,000, but that's a gamble you're taking, or it could be, like you said, 100,000 more.
Or we might have to go electric, and then it's 200,000.
Right.
So,
Councilmember Hunt, go ahead.
Sorry, just, I guess, my 2 cents on this. I've already spoken with Chief and Shane kind of at length. So a lot of the stuff I haven't chimed in on, but as I looked at it, I kind of, and maybe this is a little weird, but I thought other expenses we have where we kind of feel like we're under pressure, and I thought about Black Friday, and I don't do a lot of Black Friday shopping, but people do. And they feel pressure to buy, and so I kind of came up with a list of, is it a good idea to buy based on those kinds of pressures? And the first thing is it something that we actually want or need? Because a lot of times, maybe not as a city, but when people are buying, they think, oh, it's a good price, I'm just gonna buy it. And I think this fits that bill. It is something that we want, and I trust your judgment. You say it's something we need. I'm good with that. The other one is, do we have enough money? We've talked about a lot of different revenue sources for that, and I have more to say on that, but maybe I'll save it for later. But yeah, Dean says we're good, so we're good. And then the third one, are we unnecessarily moved to action? And in the end, I feel like the people who are producing it are the ones who hold the cards there. I mean, it doesn't sound like we can really go back and say, well, how about, because they set the price. So we are under pressure, but I don't feel like a lot we can do about it. So as far as I'm concerned, it seems like a good idea as far as funding. If we want to go into how that's done later, I have more to say on that. But I had one more question, though, that I just thought of. In the contract, is there anything that says that if their general prices go down, that the price would go down, or this locks in the price and that's?
No, I don't believe there's anything, there's definitely nothing in the proposal, because it's a one-sheet proposal that was in your staffing package. But there's nothing that I can say that I can go back and get that information. I mean,
It was just
for sure.
a question, but.
that's a
You
good
know,
point.
you would hope so, but it never works out that way, does it?
Chief, I have a question. So this is a 23-year-old fire truck or something like that, right? How long?
No, it's 21.
21. Okay. How long has Kaysville
Actually,
had it?
21 this month.
Have we had it this long?
Yeah, we've had it.
Okay. So just to be clear on, I mean, that's a long time to have a vehicle. So it's not as though we're making these decisions every couple years to buy a new fire
Yeah,
truck,
it's-
right?
There's certain things in the standard even, man, like every 7 years, you have to change your tires out.
Right.
They can be very, very good tires, but the standard says every 7 years on a certain vehicle, they will be rotated, and they're not cheap. I mean, it's $7-8 grand to change out all of our tires in the ladder truck. I mean,
But this is a purchase that we'll keep for a long time.
We will.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor, can I-
Councilmember Oaks.
One more question, I apologize. Shane, I totally agree that on the west side fire station is not playing to this because this is a replacement. However, since we know we're going down that path, is there another engine down the future that we'll end up having to be buying in a few years? Or will we see if we can eke out our aging fire?
Very, very good question. So we will have, if this goes through in 3 years, and just obviously
This is down the road. but
not
I'm-
reality, but down the road, but say the 3 year, 4 years, 62 opens up, we rotate, whether it's the new engine down there in 62, we keep rescue engine 61 here, we've already retired the vehicle, and then we'll have an 18-year-old backup.
Okay. No, thank you.
No, good question.
Okay, all right, Councilmember Jackson.
One last question.
Sure.
Just for those folks watching, so when you retire a vehicle, what does that look like? Is it something that we can sell to another smaller city that may?
I'm sorry I didn't answer that, but absolutely.
And
There's about 3 different companies that sell fire trucks, and you know, like they approached me on the heavy rescue, for example. We were selling our heavy rescue vehicle. We didn't have much luck selling it. It had low miles, but it was a little long in the tooth. It was a 90, whatever it was, a 91. We ended up selling the Layton for $40,000.
Okay. So do you have any indication of how much this would be worth?
Fire trucks really don't, you don't get much for them, to be honest with you. For instance, 2013, we spent $1.2 million on our ladder truck. 10 years from now, I'll sell that ladder truck for 50 grand.
Okay, yeah, so not much. Okay, that's good to know.
We had the last ladder truck we had, we put it up for sale and nobody would buy it. I mean, it sat on there for 9 months, went in national magazines, everything, nobody would buy it. And the reason is they don't want to buy your problem
Right,
a lot of times.
Yeah, if you're
And
selling,
usually what
there's
you
a
end up
reason.
doing is donating it to a small jurisdiction that just can't afford anything
bet.
or something.
And I think that's the best.
That's
thing.
helpful.
I mean,
We've done that before.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Davis Tech needs one for their school.
Right, so they, yeah.
And Mayor, I'm sorry, I keep clarifying, but it's helping me too. But just to make sure, to Councilmember Oaks' point, we would either divest ourselves of this old vehicle, or there is a chance we can use it in our current system if we do have 2 stations especially. That would be the goal, to keep it and not have to buy a new one for a brand new
It
station.
would be, but this particular vehicle, the past 4 years, we haven't passed the pump test, the annual pump test on it. And then it needs to go in for about $3,000-4,000 worth of work, and then they get it to pass. We'll have the same problems with it year in and year out, but it's a good running vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, it's healthy. We've done our due diligence and done our maintenance on it regularly, so, you know, it's just a little tired.
But it would be nice to be able to keep it because $3,000 or $4,000 a year is pretty small considering. So, I mean, if we could keep it in the rotation, it'd probably be good. All right,
I'm willing to make a motion.
okay, we're ready.
I would make a motion that we purchase of a fire engine apparatus with the caveat that we pay for it with one-time monies, which would be sales tax or excess power revenue.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Mayor?
Discussion? Comments?
May
Go
I make
ahead.
a substitute motion?
You sure may.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we purchase the fire engine apparatus. And I guess I'm still not clear on where the funding is coming from, but I would like to stipulate that it not be taken from the power fund. I don't think it's appropriate. Repealing Prop 5 wasn't on the agenda tonight. Not that it's a repeal, but no one's had a chance to look at it. I don't think it would be an open way to do things. I mean, I can say more, but that's the gist of what I've been thinking about. Use of power funds on this apparatus.
Okay, we have a substitute motion. Do we have a second?
Can we ask a question?
Yes.
In regards to that? So the funding that's available, yeah, a little bit unclear on, like, with the sales tax funding.
The percentages, you mean?
Yeah. So has that been made clear that we do have that in the budget?
Yes, I mean, from a staff perspective, I would like some clarity on what percentages we're talking, is it 50/50 or something like that, or?
No, I'm going to leave that up to staff, what the percents are going to be, because Dean knows better where those one-time monies are at, and that would be, some would be sales tax, some might be reserve, and some would be power funds.
And then we can do that. But Councilmember Blackham mentioned that we do have some healthy sales tax dollars, and that is the case. I think Dean has mentioned to Chief and I, the reason why we could do this now with just general fund monies is because the sales tax is done very well. But you know.
So there is enough money technically in the
I don't know that. We don't know that for sure. I know the sales tax would not pay for it alone.
Right, and certainly no increase would even come close to it.
Yeah.
But, yes. But,
Oh, okay, so
but the general fund has
enough reserves?
Yes, we didn't spend
Okay.
all of the general fund money last year. We have
Want to
reserves
make
from
sure
years
that,
before.
I don't want it to come out of our property tax funds. That's why I'm saying the one-time monies for the one-time purchase. That's why I'm saying power reserve funds, sales tax funds. But
General
I'm
fund.
leaving, it would be the general reserve funds.
Okay.
But you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
and if the direction is to have, Mr. Story figure that out and do that appropriately, he can certainly do that, but.
Right.
So we can dip into, or take it out of the excess power funds to help pay for this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That is your legislative ability to do that, for sure.
That was my motion.
Okay, and for clarification, do we need to clarify that at all? Nick, as far as making any sort of public announcement or?
No, I think with how Councilmember Blackham's worded it, we can
Okay.
go back and we can determine the legality of all that.
Okay.
And determine what we need to do that way.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for the clarification. So we have a substitute motion. Do we have a second? Okay, motion fails. So we'll go back to the first motion, which was made by Mike, to do a combination of power funds and general fund.
One-time
One-time
type funds,
monies.
which would be sales tax, power funds, and reserve funds that we have.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second on that. Let's take a vote. Councilmember Oaks.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Chief, for your presentation. Okay.
We're good, right?
Yes. Okay, council member reports. Does anyone have anything to report?
Yes, Abby does.
Oh, Councilmember Hunt. You have a report?
What do I have to report? I mean, I can think of a lot of things.
Donuts. Yes,
Councilmember
Councilmember
Oh,
Hunt
yes.
and I had
We
the,
went to Bowman's.
went to the opportunity
How
to
I
go
could
to
forget.
Oh, yeah, for the
Bowman's,
expansion.
to expansion, and learned a lot about donuts and stuff. What we
So
found.
much about donuts.
So much. And this is crazy, but that entire addition is based on donut sales, which is about 40 by the width of the store. And they actually, their net sales on donuts were $750,000 in 1 year. And they were, their new number they were trying to hit was 1 million.
1 million, yeah, donut
And they've
sales.
already,
Sales in
Yeah,
1 year.
yeah.
and they think they already
Yeah,
hit
they're
that
gonna get
projection
there.
of 1 million.
No wonder we're
And-
happy here.
Yeah.
And so, they're actually putting in a drive-up donut window.
Thank
which
you,
is
Perry Oaks.
Amazing.
When will
But
that
you-
be completed?
You
I'm
got
counting
anything else
the
to
days.
add, Abby? I mean, it was.
It'll be soon. I think they've had, like everyone else, slowdowns in production and materials and concrete and all the things. But I think they were hoping by the end of the year to have it fully
And
up
what
and
they
running.
kind of said is, we would like to do a soft opening, because this is so new, we don't want to do and we want to learn how to operate it, make it work, and then we volunteered our great mayor to do a grand opening with them.
You did?
Yeah.
Awesome.
The big scissors.
Awesome. I had a family thing, so I couldn't go, so I'm glad you guys were there. Thank you.
Did they talk about the existing though? They're remodeling that, so they're still keeping.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
It's
adding
really,
storage and like seating, and it's gonna be a really cool.
yeah, they put a lot of
thing when
thought
they're all
into this, and didn't realize how many donuts they're actually trying to hit the number of being able to sell 2 million donuts in a year.
Oh my gosh.
Wasn't that what he said?
Yeah,
2
yeah, eventually,
million?
yeah, probably
I
not
think
like
that's
next
crazy.
week.
Is that a Guinness record
We'll
kind of thing, maybe?
We'll need a new IHC here in,
It's a good thing we've got some dentist offices in town, huh? Okay, great. Anyone else with a council member report?
Oh, I
Yes.
finally got the hometown post up, so
Oh,
we
good.
had well, I think it was last Friday it went out, so hopefully I'll be able to stay on the ball with that, and we'll have more announcements or recaps of events or things coming up, so it's kind of exciting.
Good. Thank you very much. All right, okay, city manager report. Shane?
Mayor, just that we had a wonderful staff lunch today, just something we try to do quarterly, and we just had that today. Caught another great weather day right before the cool down of the weekend, and just grateful for that, and appreciate our staff for all they do.
Thank you. We've got great staff here. Okay, appreciate that. We are now to the point.
I will make a
Thank you.
motion that we go into closed session.
Thank you, Councilmember Blacken. Do we have a second? Okay. We have okay, all in
Mayor?
favor?
I'm so sorry. I'm interrupting the vote. I just wanted to let everybody know that we were going to take a short break so we could do something,
Yes.
and that we were staying in here.
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Short break. We have to stay here because the mics aren't set up in there. So for the closed session, we would like to invite everyone to